I heard a fun story about you. Is it true that you were one of the first people to say all agents should wear suits? And you wanted your agents to wear suits?
I wasn't the first one, but I definitely said it. And for a long time at UTA, all the men wore suits, and I was pretty dogmatic about it. And I was very like, why are you wearing a green suit? Don't wear, you're not a tree. Don't wear mushroom colors. Don't wear tree colors. Wear blue, black, or gray. That's what we do here. Let's keep it simple. You don't have good enough taste to get fancy. Keep it simple.
And do you think
I wore a suit and tie every day for like 40 years. And then I think the pandemic came and I was like, I'm never wearing a suit and tie again.
The rest of us.
And I don't think I ever did.
Yeah. Although it does seem there's a lot of data to suggest that when you dress better, you make more money. So I do think there's like something to it. Would you still tell people that they should wear suits?
I don't tell people anything about what they should wear. I learned that. But, it was hard for me because, that was what we did at the company. And then there was this one agent who became really, really successful. And he was a senior guy at our company. And he started coming to work in whatever he wanted, sweatpants or this or that. And it drove me insane. And I really wanted him to change, and he didn't. And it drove me insane, and it didn't change. And you know what? At a certain point, it's like, I got to let go of it.
Yeah. I did like Steve Jobs' line about divas. Because sometimes I used to think, and I'd be curious what you think, like, no, this person's hard to manage. They're a diva. They're a high performer, but it's not worth it. And you kind of hear like, well, if they're toxic, get them out, if they're a cancer or whatever. And that's kind of true. But it also seems like a lot of high performers are divas. What do you think?
Yeah. And then there's that line, right? And so, our company went through several difficult phases, and many of those difficult phases had to do with very successful, very toxic personalities. And every time we ultimately made the decision to get rid of those toxic personalities, we got better. Now, there was always a period of insecurity where we were concerned, like, oh my God, we're going to lose all these clients. Oh my God, this is going to be terrible. But then you would take a step back and then a bigger step forward. Because ultimately, the culture of your organization, when you do something that says, I care about the culture of the organization more than the short-term money, you reinforce your values, and the people around you feel they can thrive. And that is really, really important. So, getting rid of my toxic personality included, and some of my colleagues say, what do you mean? You never got rid of your toxic personality. But understanding that, what's an appropriate limit and being mindful of other people and their experience is really, really important in an organization. If you want to build a great culture, and I think at our company, we have an incredible culture.
Right. Why did you write those memos for all the years? They were so fun to go back through, but that's not exactly normal for CEOs, especially a private company you don't have to. You don't have external partners that you have to speak to.
Yeah. I like that memo with Harvey. I remember it vividly. I was just sitting home and I read this stuff and I just wrote it, and it just came like that. And I didn't debate it. And I didn't, I probably showed it to our corpse comm person, but then didn't listen to, if they didn't like it, I didn't care. Like, I just felt there are things you have to say. Like we represented this, oh boy, I'm embarrassed. I can't remember this name. A fantastic Iranian director who directed a movie called The Separation. And we represented him, and he was nominated for Academy Award. And this is in the first Trump presidency where he did the Muslim ban. So he was not allowed to come to the United States for the Oscars because he was banned from entering the country. And we would traditionally have an Oscar party. We canceled our Oscar party that year. And instead we had a rally for against the Muslim ban and in support of our client and the Muslim community. And I just knew it was the right thing to do. It was not a debate. It was the right thing to do. And so when you believe that something's the right thing to do, you just kind of do it. And I think that your colleagues may not all agree with you politically, and some of them certainly don't. And I may not stand for everyone, but I think I stand for a notion and a concept of what it means to represent artists and stand up for them, and what it means to be on the right side of whatever we think we want to be on the right side of,
Yeah. And that was a, really countercultural movement too. Not to mention, like, I bet there are people that didn't like that. There are deals that maybe fell through. There's, repercussions to actions.
There certainly are. And things got, there were other times things were much trickier. They weren't as black and white in certain regards during some of the different, social issues we've had where it was harder to know exactly where to draw the line. But we've tried to be really thoughtful about it. And we've also tried to stand up for things that we did. I can't speak, I don't speak for the company anymore, but we did try to speak, stand up for the things that the vast majority of us felt strongly about.
What do you think's coming for the movie industry and maybe for Hollywood in general? Like, is there a prediction where you're like, I bet my bottom dollar this is going to happen in the next few years?
Well, I'm a little nervous about it right now. I mean, I looked at I just saw a recent statistic or whatever it is that showed sort of advertising revenue among the different platforms. And when you look at ad revenue from YouTube or Meta or Google or Amazon, which is anywhere from, 40 billion to 295 billion, as compared to ad revenue for, Warner's or Comcast or whatever, which is like 8 billion or 9 billion or 7 billion. You just realize, wow, these are really, really small companies. And these are really, really big companies competing with them and coming to get them. And, how we figure out how to maintain our relevance and importance, I think is going to be really challenging. And I think AI is going to be very problematic and also can be a very powerful tool for the next generation of artists.
Yeah.
And how we figure out what soapbox to stand on. I think the talk about it more, union unrest, I think is really, really damaging and really, really misplaced right now. And I'm really hopeful that we don't have another couple of strikes because that would just be devastating.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is not at all, not knowing anything about the industry really, but, man, with the speed at which things are changing in AI, my husband was the former, Department of Defense's commercial AI, investor. And, so he's much smarter than I am on all of this stuff. And we invest in a bunch of AI companies, and own some SaaS companies, smaller ones, but, it's not stopping. And so sometimes I see what's happening with, let's just say the unions or people who say, well, you shouldn't be allowed to do it. And I am a counter talent in that way. And I'm like, well, if you won't let Hollywood do it, we, aka YouTube and streamers, will eat your lunch.
They're doing it.
And so I think it's so sad what happens with these calcified industries, and unions seem to do this a lot.
Literally what happened, over the last, while we were investing in diversification, the studios weren't.
Yeah.
They were making movies, making television, making huge profits, putting it in all the executive pockets, and they were not investing. And the fact that Netflix was built outside of our industry and destroyed it is just a sign of sort of a calcified thinking.
Yeah. And I was DMing back and forth with 50 Cent, which is a stupid thing to say out loud because I'm not in your industry. So this just happened yesterday. 10
years ago, somebody said, you're going to be I was DMing.
I would lose it. I'd also be like, shut up, Codie. But the point is, I thought he did this deal that I thought was fascinating. And I'd be curious your take. And maybe I got some of it wrong. He said it's right, but I haven't seen the numbers. But that he bought this land in Louisiana. Did you see this purchase he did?
No.
Okay. So the TLDR was basically 50 bought land in Louisiana, is building a production studio there, a couple big centers, maybe a Sphere, and got Louisiana government to comp part of it. I think it's $124 million build out. They're putting up 50 mil or something like that. Obviously some tax breaks too.
Right.
All good stuff for Shreveport. But the part I think is fascinating that I wonder if more talent is going to get into is to not just be the talent, but to be the landlord too, to own the rental equipment, to get paid before the studios do, because your first check, because it doesn't matter if the studio, if the movie succeeds or not, somebody's got to pay for production and everything on site.
Tyler did that down in Atlanta. I think Taylor Sheridan does that all over Texas. I think that more and more talent is saying, wait, if I'm driving this much production, why aren't I driving it into my own facilities and buying my own buildings as a result of it? I mean, a lot of producers around town have used their overhead deals to buy buildings, and then they use the studio's overhead money to pay for it. So it's not uncommon, but this is a scale it's much, much bigger.
And is it new for talent to be doing this?
I mean, talent, that's the thing about talent today. Talent today so much more entrepreneurial
Yeah.
and multi-hyphenate, and they're thinking about the world in terms of not just what role am I going to play, but I'm going to create my own roles. I'm going to create my own productions. I'm going to have a beverage. I'm going to have a podcast. I'm going to publish a book. I'm going to do a live event. I'm going to own a facility. I mean, this is the world today. The environment of entrepreneurship is so much broader that, how many kids are sitting there thinking, I want to be a creator and I'm going to have a makeup line and I'm going to do this. That never used to happen. So the tools that we've been given through technology have allowed this whole explosion of entrepreneurship and creativity. And it makes sense that talent would be a part of that for sure.